I'm Andrew Beatty, and you're watching episode 18 of Bedtime Stories with the Motelorcyclist. Welcome to another edition of Bedtime Stories with the Motelorcyclist. And each week where I bring you inspiring travel stories from here and around the world, as well as really cool motels that can hopefully get you out on your motorcycle and travel and stay at some really cool places in and around your backyard. This week I'm really excited because I have two great guests coming on the show tonight. We have welcoming the Sidecar guys. You know, perhaps they were inspired by Jim Carrey and Jeff Daniels in the Dumb and Dumber movie. But regardless, this pair actually holds the world record for traveling around the world in a sidecar. And they traveled, are you ready for this? For a total of 455 days, 34,000 miles over 5 continents, all to raise awareness to end modern day slavery. The Sidecar guys, are Matt and Reece, are my featured guests tonight to tell you about their adventures around the world and what they're up to next. And then, of course, on tonight's show, Wes Fleming, host of Chasing the Horizon podcast, will be joining me to talk about some new news concerning the Triumph motorcycle. So Wes will be coming on as well. We can't have a show without Wes on. But before we go too much further, I wanted to raise your awareness to two very special motels that I've put on the Motelorcycle.com website. The first is the Retro Inn in Cortez, Colorado. Here you can step back in time to the year of your choice, and as all rooms are numbered, like from 1959 through to 1986, and decorated with events of that year. For example, 1959 is Marilyn Monroe, 69 the lunar landing. You get the idea. Anyway, the Retro Inn in Cortez, Colorado is now on the Motelorcycle website. And if you are a Route 66 fan, or merely just a Clark Gable fan, you should check out Boots Court Motel in Carthage, Missouri. It's on Route 66, of course, and Clark Gable stayed there not once, but twice in the 1940s. And if you want, you can even ask for his room. You can find these and reserve your stay at more than 50 cool motels directly right from the website at Motelorcycle.com. So with that, when we come back after this message, I will be welcoming none other than Matt and Reece, the Sidecar guys, to tell us all about their adventure. Stay tuned. Well, welcoming me now is none other than the Sidecar guys. I am so excited. Do I have Matt? Are you there?
Hey, I'm
Matt?
here, all right.
And Matt, Reece, are you there too?
I am also here. Yeah, how you doing?
Hey, great to see you guys. Nice to welcome you onto the show. I'm going to try to bring myself into this picture as well, so just bear with me a second here. Let's see if I can do this right. Okay, A, B, C. There we go. I think I got it. Hey, so now we're all in the same picture and everybody can see us. Guys, tell me a little bit about how did you guys meet?
Sure thing. So we met at school. We're old school pals. Science class, probably. That's what I remember the most. Picking up the football team, or soccer, you might call it over there. Yeah, that's where we first met. Haven't been able to shake him off ever since, really. It's been a nightmare.
Reece, let me ask you a question. Reece, did you, were you inspired at all by the Dumb and Dumber movie to come up with this concept to ride around?
I think every ridiculous duo you can probably think of that's either been on TV or film, you can probably make some sort of ridiculous comparison to. So, Dumber and Dumber, Wallace and Gromit, yeah, all those sort of people we sort of fit into quite nicely. So, yeah, they're our heroes.
That's wonderful. Tell me a little bit about the inspiration. So we know that the Dumb and Dumber was kind of the impetus, maybe of the means to do it. But what was the real inspiration behind it?
Sure thing. So, I mean, at the time, it was a few years ago now, we actually came up with the idea of the trip because we've been back in the UK for a year. The trip was 15 months, and it was a couple of years in the planning. So going back to sort of 2015, there was big European migrant crisis. It's still going on now. There was this thing called the Calais Jungle, big refugee camp or migrant camp on the border between the UK and France. And there were some really negative news stories about that in the news back home. And me and Reece were kind of just working a job, and we were kind of getting frustrated with a few things we were seeing in the news, and just decided we'd see if we could do something about it, just something positive, and go out and tell some fun stories about how people around the world are good, and generally people are good on the planet. So we came up with this stupid idea to do it in a ridiculous vehicle to get some attention. We're basically showing off to get people to watch the stories, and that's how it all came about.
Well, I think it was a really, I mean, forgive me, it's a noble cause, and it's a great cause that you guys chose. But traveling for 400 plus days costs an awful lot of money. How did you guys fund this journey?
Yeah, so we I suppose we were also quite lucky, really. So because we spent 2 years sort of planning it, by the time we sort of set off, we didn't have a clue which way we were going. The main reason being is we worked really hard to sort of get sponsorship and that sort of thing. And at the time, I was working for a company, and Matt had been working for them, called Flight Centre UK, the travel agency in the UK. And they helped massively in terms of with the sort of cost of doing something like that. I mean, we were both just straight out of uni, sort of quite fresh-faced, and it certainly, made us use every single bank account and credit card that we have. Also, without their help, I probably got about, I don't know, to the middle of Africa, and would still be stuck there right now, probably crying. So that they were unbelievable in that sense. We were really lucky to get the sort of sponsorship we were able to get.
Reece, now correct me if I'm wrong, Reece, but you guys actually did set the world record for this, did you not?
So there's a record for the longest journey by scooter and sidecar. So that's the record. It was, I think, 8,000 kilometers, and now it's 54,000 kilometers. So that's the record. But, I mean, it sounds like we smashed it, but I mean, realistically, it's more like no one really thinks it's a good idea to go that long on a scooter and sidecar. I think is more the logic.
There's a good reason they saw Dumb and Dumber.
Yeah.
Matt, let me ask you. I mean, you chose the cause to end slavery. In modern day slavery. It's a tough cause at the best of times to raise money for it, because that's what you were trying to do. But you really were trying to raise awareness to this important topic. How did you come up with the idea, and where did that come from?
Yeah, so like I said, the whole inspiration for the trip was this thing about the European migrant crisis, and human trafficking was an issue that was really affecting the people wrapped up in that. So we came up with the idea of raising for charities to support human trafficking and modern slavery. And then, like you said, we just kind of reached out to a few. We went to visit one in the UK, and they said, great, please do raise as much money as you can for us. But also a big thing for us is just letting people know that modern slavery exists today, that people don't realize that there's 45 million people in the world living in modern slavery. It's like 3 times the amount of the transatlantic slave trade. It's very different how it occurs, but also there's definitely some similarities in what modern slavery and slavery is. So yeah, that's where it all sort of came from. And we went around the world. We visited 10 different charities around the world that fight modern slavery where they are. And it was a really good thing to do in terms of we got to learn. We got a lot of experiences that we wouldn't have had just riding around the world without sort of fundraising for that cause and learning about it as we traveled, because we got to sort of go and visit all sorts of different organisations and learn about sort of the issue in their countries. Yeah.
And you did a wonderful job of doing that, because there was a lot of press. You generated a lot of press for the issues, and we followed your trip while you were going along. I mean, I was looking at YouTube videos that Reece, that you were posting. I think you're the videographer of the group, are you not, Reece?
Try to be.
Yeah.
Try to be. Yeah. I mean, sometimes I do a bad job, but I try.
Well, I think they're great videos, and you have a whole series of them on your YouTube channel as well. We'll get to that in a little bit. Let's sort of move over to the journey a little bit. You left London and you went to Paris, and then you went south down towards Africa. Is that?
Yeah. So we went down to Athens, and then we moved to Egypt and did the sort of eastern sort of side of Africa. So Egypt, Sudan, Ethiopia, Kenya, all the way down to South Africa. Yeah, so Cairo to Cape Town, essentially, it was our first sort of chapter, if you like. Yeah, it was pretty hard.
And was there anything memorable about that in Africa? What was your most memorable moment being in Africa?
There's a few, Africa's always full of surprises. But I guess the big thing for us, the big sort of stumbling block, was a big breakdown in Ethiopia. We just spent a few days wild camping through Sudan, through southern parts, well, not through South Sudan, through southern Sudan. And we both had food poisoning. Reece had a run-in with a scorpion. I saved his life. It's a story for another day. And then we were in northern Ethiopia, and there was a big festival going on. It was called Timkat Festival. It was the biggest religious festival in Ethiopia. The streets were lined with people doing tribal dance, and it was such an awesome experience. But not really the kind of place you want to break down. We broke down right in the middle of it, which caused a lot of excitement. We're kind of the entertainment for the afternoon. We eventually got out of it. The crowd picked us up and put us on the back of a police truck, so just lifted the vehicle up, and then we went through to the tourist town of Gondar, and we spent 3 weeks there learning what a clutch was and how to rebuild one, using a lot of help online from people who helped us back home, and slow YouTube videos. Yeah, so that was really memorable and quite big to get through for us, really, because we're not mechanically minded at all. So we had a lot of messages at the time saying, "Well done, lads, nice try, best fly home now." But then we kind of managed to drive on south, which was quite nice.
That's really great. When we come back, we'll be talking to them a little bit more about their journey and see how Matt and Reece were able to get from Africa over to South America. So come back, stay tuned, we'll be right back. Welcome back, and it's Andrew Beattie, the Motelorcyclist, and I'm here with none other than Matt and Reece, and we're picking up our story. The last we heard, they were coming in from Africa, and they were on their way to South America. Matt, you worked at Flight Center, so how did you get your bike over to get your bike and sidecar rig over to South America? And where did you start your journey in South America from?
Yeah, so we did have a bit of help from our friends at Flight Center. We shipped it over we air freighted the bike over to Santiago in Chile. It was a faff. Whenever you try and move a bike from continent to continent, it is a faff, no matter what you do. But we got it to Santiago in the end, and then we sort of headed north. We headed straight north, and the idea was to get to Alaska originally. The first segment of that was obviously getting to Cartagena in Colombia. So up through Bolivia. It was pretty crazy, sort of taking on the Lagunas route and going through the mountains there, sort of 5,000 meters above sea level. That threw up a couple of surprises for us anyway, because we didn't know the bikes needed oxygen at the time. So a lot harder than we thought it was going to be. And
Reece, did you end up having to push the bike at any point?
Yeah. We basically. Yeah, kind of as Matt sort of touched on it then, like bikes need oxygen, and we didn't have a clue. And so we found ourselves on the Lagunas route on essentially washboard tracks, pushing the bike uphill. But it's quite unusual because if you're sort of 4,000 or 5,000 meters above sea level and you're driving, you don't really feel the effects of altitude sickness. But as soon as your vehicle stops driving because it can't drive because of the altitude itself, and you have to get out and push it, all of that adjustment happens in a space of about 30 seconds, and you just start crumbling with blistering migraines as you continue sort of pushing it. It's not a fun thing to do. I wouldn't necessarily do it again, but it was an experience. Yeah, it was good fun. It was good fun.
A fun fact that many people still don't know, but it is a Trivial Pursuit question, that Bolivia is the only landlocked country of the world that still maintains a navy. They lost that northern tip of Chile in a war, and yet they still maintain a navy. So that's a little fun fact for for your travels to Bolivia. You made your way up. You went all the way up to North America. Tell us about your about arriving in North America. Like, what was that experience like? Was that your first experience in North America?
So we arrived into Mexico. We got into Progreso, a port in the Yucatan region of Mexico. No, I've been to North America before a little bit, just sort of on holiday. Never been to Mexico before that, and never experienced it how we had, sort of riding straight up through. The idea was to get to Alaska. Didn't quite make it in the end, but we drove basically from the Yucatan to Vancouver, Canada. And it was awesome. It was more of the same, really. Lots of breakdowns, lots of repairing stuff, lots of getting scared by the wild animals or Bigfoot. Lots of help from the local people. Yeah, really, really cool. Loved North America.
We did actually try and go a bit further than Vancouver. The plan was, like Matt said, was to try and make it to Alaska, and we got 400 kilometers from the border, and our drive belt snapped. We had a spare one, but it was really quite damaged. And at this point, we knew that if we'd gone any further to Alaska, the chances of getting another one after that we'd have been sort of waiting, if it broke again, 3, 4, 5 weeks. And we couldn't really wait because we had a boat booked for about 10 days later. We were literally going up to Alaska and spinning it just to say we'd done it, sort of thing. Because after that, we were going to ship to Siberia and drive across Siberia in winter, which was all that all together.
Yeah.
Wow, and so let's just talk about this for a second, because yes, you guys actually did travel in the wintertime, and I'm showing pictures, people, of what it's looked like, and what I'm showing right now looks like a picture of a breakdown that occurred. You guys are just desperately looking at your rig. Matt, Reece, which one of you guys want to tell me a little bit about breaking down in the middle of winter and what it's like to ride there?
Yeah, I can.
Yeah, go for it.
Go. Yeah, I mean, it's a challenge. It's psychologically immensely draining. I mean, for us, so what we basically knew is we knew it would be obviously freezing. With our bike being quite unreliable in general, we were quite lucky because we were in Canada before, so we got a lot of sort of like cold weather gear from Canada. We didn't want to rely on any electric heated kit using the bike battery or anything, because we didn't know how well it would fare. So we got that stuff, and I think for us, the main takeaway, I think, is what we kind of thought, and what people said to us before was, once you get down to about -10, -15, it doesn't make any difference if you get any colder. It's just it's all the same, and that's just not true.
That's just a lie.
There's a significant difference between -10, -20, -30, -40.
Yeah.
It's not a nice difference.
So, I mean, we were just completely unprepared. We tried to be prepared for once in our life, and we just were clueless. So, heated visors are a brilliant idea. We didn't know they existed, and we just got frozen faces. That was one of the biggest challenges. A good pair of sunglasses. You don't think about it, but it's so bright there with the bright light and the snow. So we're going snowblind most days, which was just really stupid. Winter tires. We really tried on that front. Couldn't get any. Some Russian guys tried to make us some snow chains. They broke after about 30 minutes of absolutely exhilarating speeds, but most of the time we were going sort of 10 miles an hour down the Trans-Siberian. It was genuinely really scary, actually.
It's that thing. Yeah. What we kind of say these days is when we reflect on something like Ethiopia or the Guinness route, we look back at it now, and you look back at it a couple of days later, and you thought, blimey, that was a bit chaotic and a bit scary. But with Siberia, we were sort of a week in, 2 weeks in, and we were realizing at that point it was scary. but we also had another 5,000 miles to go, knowing that we'd be continuing on the same path. And it's kind of like you were driving along, you'd see lorries in ditches and stuff like that because they were struggling to keep on the road. And here we are on a small summer-tired scooter and sidecar, and at any minute one of them could plough into us, or we could just slip out and plough into the side of one of them. So it was the most difficult thing is, the cold is horrible and the breakdowns are horrific, but it's the sort of mental stress when you're doing it, when we were doing it, because it felt like it was completely out of your hands, essentially, what was going to happen.
Well, I'm so impressed that the two of you guys didn't kill each other over 400 plus days together, and I'm sure that the thought of it came at least once to each of you. But and you still remained to be good friends, and you carried on. And you carried on when you came back. You arrived in London to some fanfare, which I thought was pretty cool. And then and then I want to fast forward a little bit because you're continuing to do some really cool stuff. You just recently had the adventure, the Armchair Adventure Travel Festival. Did I get that right again?
The Armchair Adventure Festival, yeah.
The Armchair Adventure Festival. Sorry. Damn it! You know, you think I would have written it down properly. I was so excited to get it down, and I still can't even write it down properly. There we go. Armchair Adventure Festival. There we go. So I just put it up for everybody to see. So tell me a little bit about that. You came back and you had this idea. Let's bring everybody together and let's talk. So tell us a little bit more about that. I did promote it on the show, so some people are familiar with it.
Well, this has only been sort of a thing for the last couple of months, since lockdown, really. So when we came back, we'd just been working on writing a book and doing a film, which we always wanted to do about the trip. And then during lockdown, we just kind of thought we're sat indoors and we'd love to be going to all these sort of adventure events that we usually go to in person and speak to people and have a bit of fun, and we couldn't go to them. So we thought, let's see if we can make one on the internet and host one ourselves. And then it just went really well. I think really because no one had anything else to do being in lockdown, and loads of adventurers and stuff were up for coming on. So we had some pretty cool guests. And we had a bit of a live show for a weekend. So yeah, we're going to do more of it. I think we're going to do another one in December, and we're going to do monthly film nights throughout the year. And we just get like fun adventurers to come on, chat live about what they get up to, show some films and some pictures, and just talk adventure really, and share experiences.
I think it's a great idea. And there's a real appetite for that. So congratulations, guys. Now we're just about running out of time here, so I just want to finish up. Matt, you're working on a book right now, are you not? Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, just quickly. So it's going to be called Our Ridiculous World Trip. It's about the journey around the world on the scooter and sidecar and everything we got up to, all the things we just discussed, and it will be out at the end of August.
And Reece, you're working on you're doing the video project. Tell me a little bit more about that.
So I guess I've been working on two. I've been working on one which is like a short, which I quite like. It's basically around the world by scooter and sidecar in 10 minutes, which I think is quite clever because very rarely someone takes you around the world in 10 minutes. It's just sort of very quick, very fast paced. And so I've been working on that with Austin Vince, which is always a extremely good help. And then whilst lockdown's been going on, it's given me more chance of sort of trying to open it up a little bit further. So we're also building it into a bit of a feature as well, with any luck.
It's so exciting. I just want to bring up because you're still raising money for As Seen through your website, are you not? And
yes.
Let me just clear your name tag there so people can see. It's asseenfromthesidecar.org. Asseenfromthesidecar.org.
Yeah.
Guys, listen, thank you so much, and I really want to appreciate. I really appreciate you coming on the show tonight and telling your story. And we look forward to following more of the great things that you're doing, reading your book, Matt, and watching those films, Reece, because I think you're so well done. You can already look at some of them on your YouTube channel, I know, and they're very well produced. So congratulations to the both of you, world record holders. Matt Bishop and Reece and Giles. I buggered that up again too, didn't I?
No, it's okay. It's just about. It's perfect.
Gilkes.
That's
how I like to say.
Thank you, guys. I really appreciate it. Matt, Reece, thanks. Have a great night.
Cheers, Andrew. Thank you.
Cheers. Joining me now for another segment of Chasing the Horizon Moto Moment is none other than the host of Chasing the Horizon, Wes Fleming. Wes, how are you?
Good, Andrew. How's everything going with you?
Hey, it's going really well. Thanks very much for joining me today.
Yeah, no problem, man. I came to you today ready to talk about Triumph. Have you heard of Triumph? They're a motorcycle company. Been around for a while.
I've heard of Triumph. Tell me what's going on in the world, in Triumph's world right now.
Well, Triumph, here, let me tell you something you probably don't know about Triumph, and that is that most of their motorcycles are manufactured in Thailand, which is an up-and-coming place for motorcycle manufacturing in Asia. All of their parallel twin models are made there, and most of their three-cylinder bikes, with the exception of the Speed Triples and the Tiger 1200 models. But those two bikes are going to be moving from being manufactured in England to now being manufactured in Thailand, where Triumph runs three separate facilities there for manufacturing motorcycles. The reason they're doing that is because they're having some problems with their sales. Normally, Triumph sells about 60 to 65,000 motorcycles a year. And they're saying in their major markets, they could be down up to 65% on some of their models. So they're looking at a 40 to 65% drop in sales for Q2, which is we're in June now. So, and it's all as a result of the pandemic. And I think we all can kind of understand businesses are taking a hit. But it's been they're cutting about 400 jobs, and about half of them are coming out of England. So what they're doing is they're transitioning all their manufacturing of bikes over 500 cc's to Thailand. And in England, they're going to run their research and development center where they're going to design bikes and build prototypes. And they're also going to continue to build these one-off custom bikes for really high-end customers, race bikes and things like that. So there's still going to be a presence in England, but they're not going to be mass manufacturing motorcycles there. Another interesting aspect of that is India, where Triumph has a partnership with Bajaj, and they've been working on some new models, 500 cc's and below, most likely all single-cylinder bikes. And we should start seeing those hitting the road in late 21 or early 22. So still some more time before that happens. But once that comes up, all mainstream Triumph motorcycles will be manufactured outside England, which is a really interesting development. Harley Davidson builds some of their bikes in Thailand. They're not imported back into the US or Canada. They're only for the Asian markets. And almost all of the major manufacturers have partnerships with Indian companies to make small displacement motorcycles, BMW, KTM, et cetera, et cetera. All the Japanese manufacturers, they all build bikes in India. So we're starting to see that globalization thing really take hold.
I wonder if Triumph is starting to get into the entry-level market now as a result of this.
I fully expect to see, good, solid starter bikes in that 300 to 500 cc range. Thumpers are great for a first bike, relatively lower maintenance, a little less power, but it helps you not get into trouble as fast.
My son just bought a G310 GS, and I can't be happier for him, and he's loving it.
Oh, great choice. And a perfect example of a mainstream brand making their bike in India. Those are all made in India.
Yeah, it's so cool. Hey, tell me, who do you have coming up on your show next week?
My next guest is a guy called Chris Cumley. He is a long-distance rider that does his riding on I think it's a late 80s or early 90s Harley Davidson Sportster, which is not really what you think of when you think of a long-distance bike. Yeah,
no, definitely not. I hope he's upgraded the seat on that bike.
Oh, yeah, me too.
Wes, thanks so much, and I look forward to welcoming you back next week, and we'll tune in. And everybody, you can listen to Wes weekly on as the host of Chasing the Horizon podcast, the #1 motorcycle podcast out there on the marketplace. So make sure you download, listen, and share it. Wes, take care. We look forward to seeing you next week.
You too. Bye now.
Cheers. That concludes another edition of Bedtime Stories with the Motelorcyclist. We look forward to seeing you next week. Ride safe, sleep well, and go Motelorcycling. See you soon.